So I took a whole week off social media and I wanted to talk about it. What happened? How do I feel? Was it a transformative experience? Would I recommend it? And other questions. Yeah, so last month, between the 6th and the 12th of July, I deleted the Instagram and Twitter apps from my phone, and I didn't touch them. Why did I do this? Many reasons. One, I had just finished doing Dear June, which is like a daily Instagram community project that I've now done 2 years running. And I felt a bit exhausted from like having to come up with things to post every day, which is obviously part of the challenge, but I just felt like I needed a little break. And then also recently I've just been thinking a lot more about just how much I'm performing my life online and how sometimes I just want to live it without feeling like pics or it didn't happen. And then also because my social media presence is tied in with my business and my career, that's just some other weird added level of pressure on top of that. And I kind of wanted to sever that tie a little bit to see if I could cope. If I could cope, if the business could cope, if I didn't post for a week. So it was a little bit about not posting, but then it was also about not consuming as a user of social media, as someone who can get fully trapped in the scrolling spiral of doom. So yeah, I've done a week off social media before when I was on holiday a few years ago. I didn't use my phone at all. So I wasn't on social media either. I actually had put my phone in a cupboard for the entire week of the holiday. But my partner Dan had his phone so we could still use Google Maps and get around and stuff. But this was my first time actually at home, a normal week, still working, still doing other aspects of my job, but just not going on Instagram or Twitter. Have you ever done a social media break? How was it? Why did you choose to do it? So I just wrote down some notes and observations from my week, but then also lots of observations of since I came back to social media. I returned after a whole week, but I do think it slightly changed my relationship with social media, or at least I want it to have, and it's not quite where I want it to be yet, but I feel like I'm on the right path. And so I just want to share my experience and my learnings with you, and maybe some of this will resonate with you, maybe it'll inspire you to take a week off social media, or just inspire you to rethink your relationship with social media. I am not in the social media bad or social media good camp. I do not believe either are true, and I think both are true. So you're not going to get me to say Instagram is evil or Instagram is amazing. There are ways in which I hate it and there are ways in which I love it, and it's going to be so different for everyone. Okay, so during the week, I found myself reaching for my phone a lot. It was just this reflex of just picking up my phone and then having nothing to do because there were no apps that I wanted to open. My screen time significantly went down. Even before I took this break though, I had used the iPhone settings to set a 2-hour a day limit on Twitter and Instagram. The only days where I would ever actually hit that limit were days where I would post videos and I would be needing to promote it on social media and stuff, and then it would be too much. Or days where I'm creating sponsored Instagram stories for brands and I have to write out all of the captions, and I basically am spending a lot of time in Instagram creating content, and then my phone is just stop, and I'm no, I'm working. This is actually productive. This isn't me just down a hole. So I'd already put that in place before I took this week off, and yet I still found myself going for the phone, going to open these apps, and that is why I uninstalled them. I did not rely on my willpower to not open them. I was just they're just not going to be available on my phone. I caught up on a lot of YouTube videos. I tend to kind of go through my sub feed and my homepage and just click watch later on ones that I want to watch. But since that week off, my watch later playlist is now back to over 100 videos. So maybe I need to do another week off social media and catch up on watching videos, because that to me is actually nourishing most of the time. I was in a YouTube drama hole last night. Not proud of it. I finished the book that I was reading, which I was really struggling to finish, but then I had nothing better to do. So I was just oh, I can read my book. And then one of the things that I actually did do because I kept grabbing for my phone and I wanted something to do was I rearranged the apps on my phone. And I rearranged them in a way which actually, now that I've reinstalled those apps, it makes it more difficult for me to access them. I don't know. There's so many different theories about like the best ways to organize the apps on your phone, and every year or so I kind of like change it up. So now we're in a new iteration of that. Honestly, I didn't feel like I had more time. It wasn't like I had 2 hours of my day that I would normally have been sat on social media that I suddenly was just like, oh my goodness, I have 2 extra hours in the day. Like, that didn't happen. I don't know what I filled that time with, but it didn't feel like that. I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know what I did. I was just doing other stuff. I don't know. One thing that was really interesting to me though is that I didn't really take any photos. I do not naturally pull out my camera to take pictures of my life. I would like to be more of that person who like has photo documentation of just like everyday life and like my friends and things like that. But it became quite clear to me that I was only ever really taking pictures when I was like, I need something to post, or, ooh, this would make a good Instagram post. So that was kind of interesting. I just do not have the photo taking instinct. But also lockdown and just like being in the same environment every single day does stifle creativity. So I don't really have that many exciting things to take pictures of. So that was the week. Those are my main observations from the week. It did not feel very profound. However, what has come after that, I think, is kind of more important. And this is why I've waited like a whole month to make this video, because I wanted to actually see if there were any changes in my social media habits after taking this week break. And the answer is kind of, I don't know. What was really interesting to me though is when I first reinstalled the apps, I did it on the Sunday night because I wanted to use the Sunday night to kind of catch up on stuff that I'd missed rather than doing it Monday morning and actually eating into my workday. I was maybe scrolling on Instagram for about 10 minutes before I was like, I feel shit. Why do I feel like shit? Why do I feel bad about myself right now? And it was so weird to actually be able to notice that, because I hadn't had those feelings for that entire week. And then suddenly I was like feeling shit again. And I was like, why am I feeling shit? And I actually had to be really specifically conscious of what posts that I'd seen, what captions had I read, and which of those things were sparking this feeling of shitness. And that was really interesting, because normally I would just like scroll, I'd maybe feel a bit shit, but not be able to pinpoint what type of shitness I was feeling and what specifically caused it. But now I think I've got this better idea of specifically what kind of posts maybe trigger feels like the wrong word, but it sparks that feeling inside me of like inadequacy, or just generally feeling low and bad about myself. So that was very interesting. It felt like it wiped a slate clean, and then suddenly when I felt myself feeling like that, I was like, okay, what did I just look at? What made me feel that way? But that's all I've got to. I've not necessarily got to a place where I'm like, how do I combat those feelings other than like maybe trying to avoid certain posts. The other thing that pulls me back into social media is being up to date on the news and like stuff that's happening, and not just like the bigger news in terms of like world news and then like my country's politics and like stuff that is going on, but also things that are going on around issues that I care about or within like my communities and stuff. Like that is stuff that I want to be aware of, right? And social media is the only place where I get a lot of that news, because the mainstream media either like doesn't cover the specific communities that I'm a part of, or marginalized voices tend to be quite absent from traditional and mainstream news. But I get that information from social media, and I'm very grateful for that. Basically want to try and find a way to still get that information and still being able to learn about all of these things, but not 100% of it coming from Instagram, basically. I need to not be so reliant on it for that information. So I'm going to look into some more like diverse, radical, trustworthy news outlets that I can support in some way, maybe like sign up to a digest newsletter that they have, because I feel like that might help bridge that gap for me of like still getting that news, still getting that information, but not having to be plugged in to social media all of the time. So I used to put a lot of pressure on myself to post on Instagram every single day. If I didn't have a post going out that day, I would be fretting until about 8 p.m. of like, what am I going to post? What am I going to post? Oh, I need something. And then I would also stress out about Instagram stories. I would always get so nervous, like actually makes me feel anxious when I see my little icon in the top left-hand corner with a plus sign on it, which means that my Instagram story has been inactive for over 24 hours. And that would actually fill me with a sense of dread. And so one of the good things about that week off is that I'm feeling that less now. I'm definitely still feeling it, but I'm able to kind of notice when I'm feeling that sense of dread of not being active on social media and just kind of let that feeling pass and just say to myself, like, today is not a day. Today is not the day to be posting. Like, you've got nothing to say. Don't force it. There we go. So it's tricky. I'm still feeling the dread, but I think I'm coping with it a bit better. Ideally, I want to annihilate the dread. But I don't know if that's possible, and I just need to, do the whole practicing self-compassion thing and just being like, it's fine if you feel the dread, but the dread doesn't control you, Hannah. So one of the reasons why I get so anxious about being active on Instagram, and it's specifically Instagram, I do not feel this way about Twitter, and I think it's because I do brand deals on Instagram and I don't on Twitter. So it's tied to my business and my ability to make money. And one of the narratives that I've told myself is that being more active on Instagram will like increase numbers and increase my business and, be better for me, basically. And one, that narrative might be a lie. I don't know. Algorithms, who the fuck knows what's going on with them? Like, some people very rarely post, other people post like multiple times a day. I don't know. But one of the things that I've recently had to come to terms with and have a bit of a mindset shift around is that what is good for business, or what I perceive is good for business, isn't necessarily what's good for me as a person, as a human being with a brain and a body. So those two are very different things. And I think over the years, I've just been prioritizing the business. And now I'm also a bit more focused on me as a person, as an individual, and my needs, and making sure that those are taken into consideration when making decisions about posting and things like that. Am I making this entire video more deep than it needs to be? I don't know. This is just what I've been thinking about recently. This also reminds me of something that I spoke about in one of my recent newsletters. I was on the phone talking with a friend about how I feel about brand deals and then how I feel about Patreon. And he said that sometimes when you do a brand deal, what's good for business might not necessarily be good for the community. However, with Patreon, what is good for business is good for the community. And that has made me realize as well with the social media break that, what is good for business isn't necessarily good for me, but Patreon is like the one part of my business that actually feels good for me. And like realizing that what is good for Patreon is good for business and aligns with what is good for me and my community. So just shout out to my patrons and the common room, because everything aligns. It just feels good. It feels sustainable, for me personally. And then I feel like I'm doing my best by you guys as a community. And then financially, I'm supported, and it means that the business is good and I can continue doing what I do and doing this work. So one of the things that I'm trying to do moving forward is be more intentional with my social media use, instead of it being that reflex that I mentioned of just like, oh, got 5 minutes, like picking up my phone, like opening Twitter and Instagram. And I haven't stopped doing that, but I'm a lot more aware of when I am doing it. And so one of the things that I'm trying to do is, if I want to go on social media that day, being really intentional about it and going, okay, now is the time. You're going to open the app to post that photo. You're going to open the app to reply to comments. You're going to open the app to check what people are saying about this specific thing. And then you're going to close it. So really having a purpose and knowing what I'm about to do when I open that app. Again, this is something that I'm trying to do, but there are so many times where I open the app with no purpose. Like, There is absolutely no reason for me to going into the app other than I'm bored. It was a reflex. It wasn't my decision. I did not decide to open that app and start scrolling. It was this other reflex in me that I have no control over. So for me, it's about actually consciously and intentionally making those decisions to open the app, and whatever activity I do within those apps, that being like actually what I came to do. But that doesn't mean forbidding myself from scrolling. It might be that I go, this 15 minutes, intentional scrolling, you know, see what my friends are saying, see what's happening, see some people's like gorgeous photos, liking and commenting, seeing what people are putting in their stories. And that's fine as long as it's intentional. And I do think, for the way that my brain works and the way that I am, if I do that kind of intentional scrolling, I would need to have a deadline. So like, maybe it's a case of even like setting an alarm on my phone of going like, right, this is a 15-minute scroll, and then the alarm goes off, and then that kind of like prompts me to like check out. I don't know, I've not tried that yet, but that's definitely something that I'm thinking about doing. One of the things I also really wanted to mention is Bo Burnham's show Make Happy. It's a few years old now, but it's so relevant to this, and actually that pressure that I was talking about at the beginning of the video of to perform my life, and that reason for taking that week break was so inspired by something that Bo Burnham says in that show, which is, if you can live your life without an audience, do it. She says as she's talking to a camera to post on YouTube. But that Sunday night, after I finished my week off social media, me and my friends Melanie and Callum all simultaneously watched Make Happy together. And it just, it hit. If you are somebody who has a following online, or even if you're not, like, even if you just feel like you perform to other people, and this, you know, that is relevant to people who social media isn't their jobs. But yeah, it's a great comedy song music show, but with some really heavy, poignant remarks about performing your life and audience performer relationship. I want to watch it again. It's just like, there's this bit in it where he is kind of like a goblin on stage, and he's singing to the audience, and he says, my biggest problem is you, as in his audience. I want to please you, but I want to stay true to myself. I want to give you the night out that you deserve and say what I think and not care what you think about it. A part of me loves you, a part of me hates you, a part of me fears you, a part of me needs you. And I don't think that I can handle this right now. And I'm getting emotional just saying that. It's like that show, like obviously I'm like nowhere near Bo Burnham level of fame, but I think it applies, and whoo, there we go. Actually feel like I want to cry. Is this where we're going to end it? I think I also wanted just to say how I don't know if I'll ever know what it feels like to use social media as a normal person. Like sometimes I look at how my friends use Instagram and I'm like, oh, wouldn't that be nice? Like I really want to use Instagram in that way that you're using it. But that doesn't mean to say that they also don't have issues with social media. Like absolutely not. Like this isn't just a problem that people who like have a following or it's their job have. Absolutely not. Like this is something that we all experience, but just maybe on different levels or the different kinds of it. I don't know. How are you? I'm doing good. I feel like I've got a lot off my chest. I'm not going to say I would recommend you take a week off social media or not. I don't know you and your personal situation, but take from what I've said, whatever, you know, resonates with you. And if it does, then cool. Let me know. What do you think about all of this? I would be really interested to hear about your relationship with social media and how you feel about it, and like your relationship with your phone and everything. Do you have any tips and tricks of things that you have put in place in order to manage that relationship better? I'd be interested to hear. Genuinely, thank you for watching. Thank you for allowing me to create this job for myself and use social media in a really fun way and the way that I want to. All right, thank you for watching. Bye.